Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Abby Ellis with the UCSF Community and Government Relations. Thanks for joining us for our community meeting about upcoming activity at 770 53rd Street. We're really excited to have this conversation with you all, as there's some really interesting work that's going to be going on at that site, and an opportunity to provide your input on some artwork that we are in the process of designing. And we have a local artist with us who is going to be working on that design to help get your input. So as we wait just another minute or two for people to join in, sit tight and we'll get started in the next minute or so. Val, will you go to the next slide? Thanks. So as a reminder, as we're waiting for other neighbors and community members to join us this evening, I just want to go through a couple Zoom housekeeping reminders. I know we're all very familiar with Zoom at this point in the pandemic, but we do have some presentation materials that we're showing. So if you're able to view the screen to be able to get the full effect, that would be great. We're going to be taking questions periodically throughout the presentation by using the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. So you can click the reactions button at the bottom here to raise your virtual hand. We'll be taking questions throughout the presentation, like I said. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9 and you'll be able to raise your virtual hand that way. There's also live transcriptions turned on, which are available at the bottom of the screen. And the meeting is being recorded to help with note taking, as well as to be shared through our email list and online, so people can go back and watch it. Next slide, please. All right, so just a brief reminder of the agenda. So we're going to do some welcome remarks from our president, Matt Cook, before going over to Dr. Brian King to talk a little bit about the adolescent behavioral and mental health services that are provided at 770 53rd Street. And then we'll hear from Megan Cooler of Perkins and Will, who's doing some of the design work for the exterior of the building. And then talk to Philippa about the community, the scrim design that we're looking at, and Liz Epstein, who you all know, will help define what a scrim is, so that way we all understand as we're getting to that point in the presentation. Next slide, please. And so just a reminder that our community engagement process, our goal and intention and commitment is to collaborate with neighbors on plan developments as they progress, which is what brought us here tonight. We also aim to keep you informed of the City of Oakland's planning and review process, which is something we can also touch on as it relates to 770 53rd Street. We will be filing an application with that after speaking with you all, and so we'll keep you informed as that application progresses through the planning department. And then to make sure that feedback that we receive from neighbors is taken into account during our internal planning and communication with the City of Oakland. Next slide, please. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Matt Cook, president of UCSF Benioff Children's Hospitals, to talk a little bit about what brings us here tonight and our commitment to behavioral health services. Matt?
Thank you, Abby. Sorry, everybody. Welcome. You can probably tell from my voice that I am struggling a little bit speaking. I am unfortunately about a month into my own experience with COVID. My voice has been one of the casualties. This is a really important topic for us. Behavioral health has been described as a pandemic. COVID is the pandemic that we think about, but behavioral health has, in the healthcare community, has been a pandemic for quite some time. And the project we want to talk to you about tonight and get some input from you on is a really important project from us. It's about the building, as Abby said, at 770 53rd Street. It's a building in which we currently provide outpatient behavioral health services. Most of the building is dedicated towards that, but not all of the building. And so we're talking to you tonight about a project that is intended to dedicate the entire building towards behavioral health services. And just as a reminder, not only do we provide them here on the Oakland campus, we provide them in the community at the FQHC, as well as in our school programs and in a very robust telehealth program. And so this is a vital part of what we do to serve the East Bay. And this project sits as a cornerstone of that. And so as we talk to you tonight, what we're planning is a renovation of the building. We're not taking it down. We're talking about renovating an existing structure. And what we think we're doing is making it a much more beautiful structure and a much more friendly structure for the services that we provide there. And so that's really the purpose of tonight's meeting, is to explain that project and to get your input as well. And so with that, in order to save my voice, I'm going to turn it over to Brian King, who is right at the center of this project and a great colleague. So Brian, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to be able to join you this evening and to share a little bit about our plans for the building, a little bit about the services that we provide, but most importantly, to begin the process of soliciting your thoughts and really looking forward to the discussion. As Matt said, mental health has been at the forefront of our minds, particularly in recent weeks. But over the past 2 decades, we've been watching the demand for mental health services steadily grow, and it's always outpaced our capacity to keep up in terms of providing services. Indeed, the Surgeon General, Satcher, declared child and adolescent mental health in need of our focused attention 20 years ago. And more recently, the Surgeon General declared a mental health crisis, along with the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the Children's Hospital Association. Clearly, the pandemic has not been good for the mental health of our children and youth, but it's primarily exacerbated a problem that has long been present and one that we've been trying to get out in front of. The building that you see here at 770 has been our primary site for outpatient services at the Children's Hospital in Oakland. And one of the things that I think you will surely notice as you look at the building is that it almost appears to have been designed to keep people out. And in fact, in talking with Carrie Shanahan, who's the director of our design and construction team, she reminded me that, informed me that this building was originally a nurse's dormitory that was relocated to this site. So it could very well have been that people erected that iron fence with the barbed tips pointing out, literally to keep people out. It's absolutely not the kind of a place that we would like to present to the community, to our children and youth who are seeking mental health services. As Matt said, we've been providing outpatient services in this site for decades, and we're really excited that we can capture the final portion of the building that had been used for HR to expand our presence of mental health services. We're particularly excited to be able to bring our team from the Center for the Vulnerable Child, and Luann DeVos is here with us tonight, who leads that team. They'll be relocating into this space. And the kinds of services, for those of you who may not know, that we see in and that we've been providing in this space go from services for children who are having developmental issues, so services to support new mothers of infants and toddlers for whom there may be developmental concerns, to children who are kindergarten and entering school age, who might be struggling with anxiety or learning problems. And as children get older, we see a higher incidence of issues like anxiety and mood problems. Children struggle with depression, and we serve them in this site as well. The incidence of autism, as many of you know, has grown dramatically and now affects 1 in 44 children in the United States. And we help children with autism with social skills and other skill building. We see kids with obsessive compulsive disorder, with eating disorders, and essentially the gamut of the kinds of conditions that affect our children and youth, and which we can adequately manage on an outpatient basis. We don't anticipate that there will be a dramatic change in the numbers of kids that are accessing the building. As I mentioned, we've been providing services here for years. And although we were expanding our presence there, one of the things that's come from the pandemic is that we've shifted a fair amount of services to virtual. And so while we overall will be providing more services, the on-site services is likely not to change dramatically. The building also serves as a touchdown space for our staff, who, as Matt mentioned, are providing many or most of the services that they deliver to children in the community, at schools and in other places. So we're really excited about the changes that are planned, and you'll see those here shortly. We also are excited about the opportunity to help mitigate the stigma that's associated with accessing mental health services, changing the look of the building and making it more inviting. We think will make it much easier and less stigmatizing for families to access care that they need. Let me stop there and ask if there may be any questions that I can address.
Great, thank you. So as a reminder, we're taking questions through the raise hand function. So community members, if you have any questions for Dr. King about our program at this site, please raise your hand. All right. I don't see any hands raised at the moment. So thank you so much, Dr. King, for talking us through that. Oh, actually, I see something in the chat from Tom about the nurses' dormitory was relocated there. Does that mean the building was physically moved? Brian or Liz, do either one of you want to answer that?
Yes, it was. Carrie can take that one.
Actually, Liz knows it better than I do because I learned about it from Liz. Yes, the dorm was actually moved to that site from behind the hospital.
Right. It was by where the emergency room entrance now is, and it was moved now many decades ago, picked up and transported a couple of blocks north.
Great. Thank you both. So I don't see any other questions. If things come up, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll take questions So Megan from Perkins and Will is up next. Val, do you go to the next slide? She'll talk through the exterior, and then we'll move straight into Philip to talk through the artwork and the scrim design, where we want to get your input. So there'll be more opportunity for questions there. Oh, Ingrid, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you. And forgive me if I missed this, but could you share the starting point for the construction of this project, and also just like the general time frame of like how long?
Oh yeah, no, we haven't shared that yet, but that will be in the presentation. So we'll have a slide dedicated to that, and we'll answer the question then. But construction won't start until September.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Megan.
All right, thank you. We can go to the next slide. It's been a real pleasure working with Dr. King's team. I think the absolute care that this group of people who work in this building have for their patients and for the community, and really looking to develop a space that speaks to all of those needs, and really being in and of and part of the community has really been a great driving force behind the design that we are doing here. When we first talked about this project, that we were sort of charged with just dream up what we could do with this parking lot, or dream up what we could do to make this building look a little better without rebuilding it. And so it's been really exciting to look at how we can totally transform this site. This is an aerial view looking down. We have the streets labeled here. As you can see, the really big gesture that we're taking is pulling that fence away from the sidewalk and turning that entire parking lot into a garden space. It has a lot of small little spaces for sitting and communing, and having some quiet space throughout the garden. And then you'll see we're wrapping the building in what we're calling a scrim that will host the artwork. So we can go to the next slide. This takes you to 53rd Street, right at the corner of MLK Way. And this really shows that we're creating a much more welcoming presence and a much more welcoming entry. That big imposing fence that has been pulled away, you don't see it anymore. And this is just really a lush landscaped garden and a meandering path back to the front of the building, which of course is kind of tucked away from the street front. And if we go to the next slide, I think it looks from a little bit higher up, and you can see here we're starting to create some smaller spaces for people to maybe wait for a ride or stop and reflect and enjoy the garden. This whole space is wide open to the community, and an opportunity for everyone to enjoy this space. You'll see the building scrim here. It's placeholder artwork. That's the big flowers on the vertical surface. But there will be one right here at that staircase as you're coming in. And then as we move forward, one of the big ideas of this garden is a really multi-sensory experience, particularly thinking about from a therapeutic lens, understanding that gardens can be about sights and sounds and smells, and really activating that kind of all of your senses, and potentially providing therapeutic experiences. And so as we march a little bit more towards that front gate, if you want to go to the next slide, we do have a quiet chime installation that is a bit of an artwork installation as well. And then the gate that we are providing is a much more artistic gate, a lot more welcoming than what we have right now. And then a slide forward, you'll see that the entrance to the building, we are creating a new ramp with a more universal access approach, so that everyone can utilize the same access to that main front door, and really making some straightforward wayfinding. And then having some kind of quiet spaces back here for maybe one-on-one therapy that could come out of the building. And then I think as we go to the outside, this goes back to MLK Way, and we're creating a scrim at this facade as well, which will display some artwork. This material, and I think Liz, you'll get into it a little bit more too, but this material is has some opacity to it, but people can still see out from the windows. But it's an opportunity to kind of organize a bit of the ductwork that's going on at the outside of the building and clean up that facade. And then this will be all improved landscaping out at the street front, some new street trees. And really, again, that fence that is currently there now will go away and will all be replaced by landscaping. And I think just a really nice pedestrian experience. And then I think our last slide speaks to the schedule. So we are finalizing design right now and looking to start going in for permit at the end of March. And then construction is hopefully starting in September and will carry on until next summer.
Great, thank you, Megan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Liz.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Megan. If you would go to the next slide, please. So I don't have the pretty slides. The other people have the beautiful slides in this, but I'll talk to you about what will become just a beautiful aspect of this project. So the scrim, which was shown on the slides that Megan just presented, is actually fabric that is stretched between metal posts. Essentially, the posts are obscured by the fabric itself. The fabric is perforated. It has very small holes in it so that air can flow through, and light also comes through, as Megan just mentioned. And the fabric may be printed with a design. And the hospital had the opportunity to think really broadly about what would the design be, and aligned with other undertakings the hospital has made in recent years. This was seen as a great opportunity to reach into the Bay Area artist community and to partner with a local artist and to create the design by using what an artist would develop that is specific to this site, this location, what goes on in this building, you know, the care that was just described by Dr. King. And so that became the route by which the hospital was pursuing, turning those scrims into a beautiful transformation of the building. And I'll describe to you how we got to having Philip with us. You'll meet Philip Waugh, the artist who the hospital has commissioned to create this work. But I want to share with you some of the things that need to be considered as the artwork is developed. Of course, the aesthetic goals. As we all saw with the photos of the existing building, it's a very boxy shape and has a lot of ductwork on the exterior. And so one of the aesthetic goals is to sort of de-emphasize that I would personally describe it as a not very attractive box, to with the artwork create an inspirational, uplifting sort of feeling that is very relatable to children and children of various ages, to create a feeling of calm and evoke a sense of delight, for the artwork itself to be sort of organic in design, and to be in harmony with the planned gardens, which we just saw in the slides that Megan presented. And along with that, the scrim itself, this perforated fabric that will be standing in front of three sides of this building, we have to work with the transparency of the fabric itself. So the image will be perforated. It won't necessarily be visible to the eye as a passerby, but that lends itself to certain kinds of imagery. And also because this is very exposed, that there are certain colors that fade faster in sunlight. And so those are better to be avoided in this. Deep reds can be faster fading. And also because of the nature of the scrim, precision lines and detail are not the best match for this medium. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So that's a little bit of what it is that is framing the development of the artwork. The hospital undertook a substantially a large selection process, I guess. I'm not choosing quite the right word. We tried to cast a wide net, and we looked for local artists, and our pool was entirely local artists and a very diverse group of artists. As you're probably aware, the hospital has been a leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is something that's very important in all aspects of the work that is undertaken at the hospital, including in the artwork that that we include on the campus. So we also engaged the very broad behavioral health staff in providing input on the artists who were being considered for this project. And ultimately, much to our delight, and we hope to your delight as well, we've selected Philip Hua, who you are about to meet. So I'm going to introduce Philip, and he is going to tell you about himself and introduce you to some of his art. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this opportunity to present to you all today, and many, many thanks to UCSF Children's Benioff Hospital for this amazing opportunity. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and then just show you some examples of my work and other artwork that I've done in the public realm. So I grew up in, next slide, I grew up in San Jose, and I've lived in the Bay Area all my life. I currently live in San Francisco. Next slide. I studied illustration at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. I'm interested in representational imagery because I feel like that is a way to communicate to the greatest number of people. Next slide. So these are images of my work. I use, I'm interested in the relationship we have to nature and the sacrifices that we make when we're faced between the choice between that and the economy. Next. And so these are images of birds, plants, nature against a backdrop of stock indexes. Next. And as you look at these examples, they are always this contrast between the choice of nature and the choice of finance. And as your eye navigates between these two, the question that I always pose with these works is, what do we pay attention to? What do we focus on? What are we willing to sacrifice between for one or the other? Next. My process is a mixture of photography, printing, painting, and digital processes. Next. And so these are I'm just going to show you some more examples. These are some works that are on gold leaf. Next. So lots of different examples that I've taken from my life and in wandering around different areas. Next. This is a moth. I did a bunch of series of butterflies and moths based on inspired by the decline in the monarch population, which thankfully has exploded this year, which is really great news. Next. some more examples. This was a lamb that I photographed on a friend's farm. Next. Some poppies. Next. And a symbol of abundance, fish. Next. These are some portraits that I've also done, and I thought they would be a good, I should say, I thought they would be relevant to the Children's Hospital. So next. 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 So now I'm going to show you some examples of work that I've done in the public realm. So this was a project that I did for a restaurant in SFO, Terminal 1, and it was directed by the owner of the restaurant. Next, and it's an image of her mother. So you can see how I used that photo and we applied it and printed it onto glass tile. Next. This is a project that I did with SFMTA, and this was a project to put artwork inside the buses. So I was really interested in the venue where the art would be, the buses, and how that was a symbol for a way to connect people. And so these are images of two people that I photographed from San Francisco, of different walks, life, ethnicity, ages, and I put them together, two pieces together as a way to inspire unity in San Francisco. Next. This is a light box, a 9-foot by 9-foot light box that's going to be going into the 19th Street Oakland BART station. And for this, I was inspired by its proximity to Lake Merritt, which is a bird sanctuary. And so in the background, you can see there's like flocks of birds. I was sort of using that as a metaphor for the thoroughfare of people going through the BART station. And I wanted to use a symbol of Oakland represented in a heron, because a blue heron is adaptable and it is comfortable in both land, sea, and air. So I wanted to symbolize Oakland in its ever-changing environment. Next. This is a project that I'm finishing up with the San Francisco Arts Commission and the Public Utilities Commission. And this is a sculptural mural depicting the founders of the community center. And I'm including images of the community in a community center. So I'm always interested in using the location, the site, and I'm interested in its function and its location, its history to inspire the artwork. So this is, you can see the image is printed on boxes of different depths, and that's meant to sort of show growth and development, and as a symbol for the hard work that these local community leaders had done for the neighborhood. Next. And the backing of the image is using gold leaf, and that I wanted to really use to lionize and celebrate these local leaders. Next. Thank you. So now I want to engage with you, the community, because I want to know how you feel about what type of art you're interested in, or how your input might provide inspiration for me. And so I have some prompts for some feedback from you, and I'll just read them off right now. It's what kind of impact do you think art should have on the community? What kind of mood would you want the artwork to evoke? What kind of ideas would not be welcomed in the artwork? What kind of messages or ideas would you want to promote? And lastly, are there any examples of murals that make you stop in your tracks and admire?
Great.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Philip. And thanks, Liz.
Great. So I am going to be looking for hands up. And Jemay, I wonder if you have a question or a comment, either providing input to Philip, and we'll also take other questions or comments that you might have. Janae, are you able to unmute? Let's give Janae just a second and see if that works. Okay, Janae, I'm going to come back to you, or let us know if you're able to unmute. Ingrid? Well, Janae, are you there? Okay, Ingrid, go ahead.
All right. Well, so yeah, thank you for that beautiful presentation, Philip. I am really inspired by just your opening kind of emphasis around the connection with nature and the choice, like you were saying, between nature and the economy. And so, yeah, I also appreciate all these questions. And I really just wanted to build off of the connection you were talking about with sorry, background noise. Anyway, so the environment, like I would love to see more, I'm sorry, maybe I should go later. I'm having some family drama in the background. I'll just try to put it out. If you look in the Temescal neighborhood, like what the history of the Temescal Creek, this neighborhood, like the district was named after, that would be really wonderful to see that kind of connection. Like there's a mural under 51st Street, I think, by the overpass. That's really beautiful, that shows swirling water. And so that would be really wonderful to see that. Uh-oh, sorry, I have a toddler and she's having a hard time. Maybe I'll come back. I'll put my comments in the chat. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is Janae. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, lovely. Great, Janae, go ahead.
Okay. There's a couple of things that I'd like to share. And with the house, well, the site on being on 53rd and MLK, that actually was across the street. It was not behind Children's Hospital. It was across the street where the new garage is. That was on that corner of 53rd, the opposite side of the corner. And what they had to do, they had to buy the property from Bart, dig a hole, and move the building over there. I watched it. So that's all about that building. And it housed it housed payroll, patient financial services. It housed quite a bit of things going on in that building. And as we grew, we moved into other areas. I got a lot of history on this block. My parents lived on this block from 1957 forward. So I know a lot about this hospital. Maybe that a lot of you don't even know. And the murals and things like that, I think are going to be very enjoyable. But I would also like to ask, if I may, when this project starts, will you be more respectful for the time that you start your building? Because we woke up at 5:30 in the morning, construction people coming in, and that was against construction law, meaning you're not supposed to start until a certain time of the day. But the workers were coming in at 5:30 in the morning with their trucks, with their blasting of music at 5:30 in the morning. I had to bring that to Liz's attention, and she had it fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Janae. We will definitely be working within the prescribed hours. There will not be 5:30 a.m. work. It is 7 a.m. I believe is the work start time, and I will double check that with the City of Oakland rules. But we will also come back to the community before we move toward construction so that we can share with you what the plan is for that, and be sure that we are appropriately mitigating and taking care of neighbors. So thank you for underscoring how important it is for the hospital to be a good neighbor. I am not seeing any other hands. There are some people have put comments in the chat, which is much appreciated. Is there is there anyone else who would like to offer verbal comments, either responding to the questions that Philip has posed or that has questions or thoughts about the project? I see more in the chat. I could read these out, but we will note them. Really wonderful comments here.
You're outstanding.
And I would welcome anyone on the meeting if you have an inspiration after our meeting has ended, that you can reach out to me or to Abby, and we'll make sure that we pass that on to Philip so that it can be in his mind as he goes forward with developing art concepts. I'll just wait a few more seconds here. Well, it doesn't look like we have further comments or questions at this time. So what I'd like to reiterate is that we will come back as we move toward construction. Again, we are expecting to submit for permits from the city of Oakland. These are administrative permits for this project. And we will be preparing for construction in the fall. So before then, we will come back to you and share more detailed plans and discuss the specifics of the construction. Let's see, I do see a hand. Vincent?
Yes, hi, my name is Vincent. I'm a resident at 670 54th Street at Dover. I'm actually right across from the hospital. I can see it from my front door. I'm curious if there's any plans to engage with the community on two projects. One of them, there's the Dover Park, which is a playground, which is in desperate need of repair, which is a great place for families in the neighborhood, but also patients of the hospital and their families. I'm part of a playground committee that is looking to revamp the park. So if there's an opportunity to engage with the hospital on that project, I would love to do so. That's one. And then the other one is establishing a slow street on Dover, up and down Dover, from 52nd all the way up to Alcatraz. There's a movement to make it a permanent slow street, and it would require installation of some permanent structures in the street. And I want to see if UCSF is open to doing that as well.
Great, thank you. I think that I'm taking a little bit of a leap here, but I think I'm on good footing. The hospital will be very interested to see if neighbors are interested in a long-term slow street that has been in effect during the pandemic and the shelter in place slow streets program that just concluded, and now there is a process by which slow streets are being considered more formally by the city of Oakland. So it would be very helpful to hear what neighbors would like to see on Dover Street. And I think that the hospital would very much take the lead of neighbors and work to be supportive of the goal of neighbors with regard to that.
I would agree, Liz. I mean, at its heart, Dover is a very residential street, and we have, families staying in family house and people walking, across that street. So I do think that's something important for us to take a look at. So thank you for raising that.
Great. With regard to your question about Dover Park, are you talking about up by Corey? Is that?
Yes, the one it's on 57th Street in Dover is right behind Corey, called Dover Park. And yeah, there's currently a committee of about 100 parents in the area that are looking to make some basic renovations for safety. But in order to do a bigger project, the city needs funding. And it would take probably 3 to 5 years to go through a city process for a capital improvement project. So private donations would be get us a long way towards getting a new playground structure. And I'm happy to give you a tour of the structure if you'd like.
Great.
We just did a tour last week with Dan Kalb, the local councilman. He's very supportive of this project, and he was actually the one that gave us the idea to come here to speak with you.
Great. Well, I think that why don't we connect separately and we can see what your plans are and where you're looking, and we'll see how we might be able to be supportive of that effort or in some way partner.
Great. I'll drop my email in the chat.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. And I just put Liz and I's email in the chat also, so you can feel free to grab those too.
Great. And I'm just going to call out that there's a lovely comment here too from Hector Garcia Martin asking, how can we donate money for the new park? So if you will put in your email address, there may also be people reaching out to you with that intent.
Okay, just dropped it. Thank you, everybody.
Super. Are there any other comments or questions? I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it that you're willing to give time in your evening to learn about what the hospital is doing and to give us an opportunity to hear from you and to also invite your inspirations to be part of this project. We will again send out notices for subsequent community meetings, including to update you on progress of this project, as well as other work at the hospital. Thank you very, very much. Good night.